You should do that. You should just slip that in there. What year was that?
Not a clue.
Yeah, make sure my phone's off. Good evening. It is 5:30 according to Verizon time, so I'm going to call the Board of Health meeting to order. Remind you to turn your cell phones to silent vibrate, and then let's all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk Chris, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Here.
Councilmember Rowe,
Here.
Councilmember Berg,
Here.
Councilmember Dalby,
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Approve the minutes for meeting number 6 on August 17th, 2021 as presented. Recommendation, approve the minutes.
So move.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the property located at 209 West 5th in the city of Ottumwa, Wafalua County, Iowa.
We have with us Zach Simonson. So Zach, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This property was placarded on May 27th, 2020 after a complaint investigation. No repair plan was submitted, and the owner failed to appear at scheduled inspections on September 22nd, 2020 and November 24th, 2020. The inspectors did finally gain access to the building on August 2nd, 2021, and we did confirm at that time that the condition inside matched the condition outside. The brick facade was falling off the building, and the leaking roof has caused significant structural damage inside, as well as cosmetic damage. The building's not part of the 5th Street Historic Bluff District. That stops one block east of this part of town. The condemnation notice was served by certified mail and by posting on the property and publication in the Ottumwa Courier.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience that wants to address this item, now's the time to step to the microphone. Seeing no one, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 209 West 5th, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative costs, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation, approve the condemnation of the structures located at 209 West 5th.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Zach? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Councilmember Berg.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the property located at 236 Phillips in the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa.
Zach, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. This property was placarded August 5th, 2020, due to a lack of utilities, broken boarded up windows, and exposure to the elements. At the initial time of inspection, the door to the building was open to pests, vermin, and trespassers. The city's mowed the grass and performed nuisance cleanups multiple times on the property. No one has submitted a repair plan or sought any permission to be in the building or made any progress toward curing any of the deficiencies. The property was initially set for condemnation on June 15th, 2021. But the property transferred ownership May 28th, 2021, which was between the publication of the notice and the hearing. So we did postpone that and do a new publication. That also gave the owner some time to come forward and do any amount of work on the building. In those 4 months, they've done nothing. They've sought no permission. We did have contact yesterday for the first time. One of the inspectors did see the property owner at the property. He said that he had been sick and he was hoping to get time. He was going to call me yesterday and never did. I haven't had any other communication or any effort made to obtain permission or submit a repair plan. The property is still in violation of the code. It's still open to the elements. It's still open to trespassers. And condemnation notice was served, same as the other one, in certified mail, posting on the property and in the courier.
This is a public hearing, so again, if anyone wants to address this item, now is the time to step forward. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We'll give that to
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 236 Phillips, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative costs, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation: approve the condemnation of the structures located at 236 Phillips.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Zach? Seeing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Is there any other business for the Board of Health? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the Board of Health and move to the regular council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Thank you. Now we'll move into the regular scheduled city council meeting, and in order to do that, we need to take the roll again.
Councilmember Rowe,
Here.
Councilmember Myers,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Berg,
Here.
Councilmember Dalby,
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here. Before we start the consent agenda, I do want to remind people, if they're at home or watching on TV, the polls are still open until 8 o'clock tonight, so if you haven't voted, you can still get out and vote your candidate for the primary election tonight. Again, this is an important opportunity for you to assert your civil rights and do what you think is best. So polls are open until 8 o'clock tonight. Let's move to item B, our consent agenda.
Minutes from special meeting number 27 on September 14th, 2021, regular meeting number 28 on September 21st, 2021, and special meeting number 29 on September 24th, 2021, as presented. Recommend appointment of Ann Youngman to the Ottumwa Housing Authority, term to expire 11/11/2022 due to an upcoming vacancy. Resolution number 191, 2021, approving the street financial report for the fiscal year of July 2020 through June 2021 for the city of Ottumwa, Iowa. Beer and/or liquor applications for Bridgeview Center Venue Works at 102 Church Street, Mimi's Taqueria at 707 Church Street, Warehouse Barbecue at 2818 North Court, Alpine Inn at 1804 Albia Road with outdoor service area, Potros Garcia at 2804 North Court, Red's Pub LLC at 618 Church Street, temporary outdoor service area for 10/30/2021. All applications pending final inspections.
Is there a motion?
Move the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Abstain.
Motion carries 4-1, 4-0. Okay, let's move to approval of tonight's agenda. I need a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Item D in our agenda is the reports from our city administrator, so I'd like to turn to Phil Rath and ask him to give us an update. So Phil, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Honorable Mayor. First up tonight, I'd like to introduce Dr. Matt Thompson from Indian Hills Community College. And he has asked to come before the board and the community to speak about the pending improvements to the college campus, or I should say campuses, all those in the region, to talk about the potential of a tax levy to help complete that and bond discussion. I see he's passing out some documents and will be available to address the council. And he's about halfway done.
He's coming around the
He'll
bend.
be, oh, thank you. I've got one as well, and he's moving to the podium.
Good evening, Matt. We're happy to have you here, and go ahead with your presentation.
It's always a pleasure, and thank you very much for allowing a few minutes to share information that I think is really important for our community to know and understand. We kicked off a bond referendum campaign on April 26th, and there was one thing that I said this would accomplish, and that would be we will be open and transparent about the process that we're following, the projects that we have, and to make sure that the community was aware of the work of the college. And so I appreciate you providing me this opportunity. We've taken many opportunities just like this with school boards across the 10 counties that we serve, county supervisors here this past week. And we want to make sure that we have information out to as many people as possible. I'll share with you just a little bit of data about the college. We're really excited about some of the things happening right now. We were one of 3 community colleges this fall that experienced enrollment growth. We had a 3.2% enrollment increase, which is tremendous. We believe that we're doing a lot of things right now to connect with our communities and to make sure that students and families and individuals that maybe are underemployed or unemployed know that their community college is there for them to grow and to improve their lives and to become tax-paying citizens. Indian Hills Community College each year provides about $235 million back into the regional economy. That work is done through a lot of the training that we do across the region. People may be familiar with the 260E, 260F training, which is accessed by businesses across our region to really help them grow their businesses and to be successful and to be sustained in our region. 86%, I want to make sure everybody knows this, 86% of our graduates remain in the 10-county region. That compares to the Regents universities who have 50% of their graduates leave the state of Iowa. 86% of graduates of Indian Hills Community College stay here, they work here. They're in the nursing homes, they're dental assistants, they're welders, they're school teachers, they're law enforcement. Chief Farrington's a graduate of ours. We're really proud of his work. And if you haven't caught this, we have a brochure that has his name and his face plastered all over it. So we appreciate him letting us do that. Each year, 92% of our students are from the state of Iowa. We save families $5.3 million a year with early college credit. Hopefully, many of you have had family members that have experienced that through concurrent enrollment or career academy. $5.3 million a year saved by families here in our 10-county region equates to $9.4 million if those same credit hours were taken at a university here in the state of Iowa. Before us on November 2nd, we have a really important vote. And I will share with you that as we have approached this, it's really been a grassroots effort. I just left a campus meeting with our staff, and we're asking people to, really get out individually at their churches, in their communities, at baseball fields. I just left a Ottumwa football field, talked to 3 parents while I was there. We need to educate the public about the significance of this college and the work that we want to do now and for many years to come. We have several projects that are on the docket for improvement. In Centerville, Iowa, we have a campus that was built in 1971 with 13 modular-based buildings that were supposed to be there for 10 years. 50 years later, they're there. We have no hallways on that campus. We have some concerns with handicap accessibility on that campus. And a lot of times people will chuckle, and this is true. Students have to leave their academic building to go use the restroom outside. We have an outdoor restroom facility that on a hot day is a lot like a Kaibo. So we're looking at projects that really make a difference in the future of our communities. They're not frivolous. They've been well thought out. We've had a lot of planning that's gone into this. On that specific project, we would have one academic building built in 2 phases. Phase 1 would be career and technical education focused. We would be adding a welding technology program to that campus, a CDL program to that campus, expanding our nursing program to a 2nd year, expanding our ag program, construction technology program, and industrial maintenance technology. Industrial maintenance technology is a high demand job across the state of Iowa, especially in our region, along with welding. One thing that I'll share with you, we've had a lot of success going out and seeking grant funding. We've saved $2 million as a college to put towards these projects. We have raised and saved another $6 million. So project cost totaling over $36 million. We've trimmed down to $28 million that we'll go to the voters with. It's my firm belief that it's difficult to pass a bond referendum for over $30 billion, even when you have 10 counties that share in that cost. At this point, we're talking about just rough numbers. 10 counties, $28 million. $2.8 million is the rough estimate on the share, right? Every county is a little bit different, but just to kind of break it down to a number that people can know and understand, I think it's important. You're going to see on the ballot box 28 million, but that is shared across 10 counties, and a lot of people may not always know that. Here on the Ottumwa main campus, we have two projects. As I became president, we surveyed staff and we talked to students about the needs on our campus. One area that we're really proud of, you think of Indian Hills and you think of quality athletics. I also think of outstanding performing and visual arts. We have a program that was built off of the Sisters of Humility. Ottumwa Heights had tremendous arts. We've maintained that over the course of our history. Yet we have a facility that was built in 1961 that outside of the auditorium, which was renovated in 2004, has not been touched since. I would share with you that over 3,500 people a year attend the performing and visual arts at Indian Hills. A lot of community members, a lot of prospective students and families, and yet we do not have a handicap accessible restroom in that space where students attend and community members attend. We want to renovate that space, have handicap accessible restrooms. We'd like to improve the classrooms and facilities in that area around the auditorium, as well as add an addition of 4,200 square feet for the performing and visual arts. We've also talked to students about, as you select a college, what are you looking for? And they tell us, we want a good place to eat. We want to have a place that we can sleep and it's nice and it's something that we can have a good experience with. And then we need things to do. We've been able to make some improvements to our food service. We've made managerial decisions to improve our residence halls over the years. But one thing that students say is we do not have a place to go for intramural activities. We don't have a place to go to work out. And then we have added a program the last 2 years, sports medicine, that produces physical therapists, physical therapist assistants, and athletic trainers. That program has grown to a point that with a student wellness center addition that's proposed, we would have an activity area for students. We'd also have classroom and lab space for the sports medicine program. Additionally, we have continuing education classes offered to the community that would have a space in that facility for physical improvement and wellness. On the Ottumwa North Campus, a project that I think is really important to our region and really to the southern part of the state, no matter if you're within Indian Hills 10-county region or beyond, and that is the Criminal Justice Training Center. Indian Hills has had a proud tradition of having a tremendous criminal justice program for many years, and it's been a lot of fun as I've gone out and talked to a lot of groups. The Southeast Iowa Sheriff's Group was on campus. We've been out and talked to police folks from across our region. We have a lot of graduates of ours, just like Chief Farrington, that graduate from Indian Hills Community College, and they're proud alumni, and they're out saving and serving the public through public safety as law enforcement officers. Law enforcement's had kind of a tough rap the last couple of years. A lot of negative publicity nationally. I'm glad we live in Iowa, where I think we respect the work of our law enforcement, but yet at the same time, Indian Hills this past year has invested in more training for law enforcement that's been accessed by over 400 people from across our region, across our state, and some of our contiguous states. We think we can continue to grow that as well. Our proposal, we've been approved to become a reserve officer training facility that will save departments across our region from doing their own training of reserve officers. I know Sheriff Phillips has told me that they have 11 reserves right now in the county. They'd love to have 20, but it takes time and resources that they don't have to be able to do that, specifically time. So we can now do that as a college, and we plan to roll that out here this fall. Our long-term goal with the Criminal Justice Training Center is to become a regional law enforcement academy. It sounds to me that from talking to our law enforcement across the region, there are some challenges in Des Moines. Getting people into the law enforcement academy, it's costly, it takes time. It takes time away from new officers and their families as well. Waterloo has Hawkeye Community College. They have a regional law enforcement academy. And with this facility space, when it's improved, after the bond passes, we will be applying to become a regional law enforcement academy where departments from across our region and around the state can send people to Indian Hills Community College for their preparation. The last project that's included are virtual classrooms in 19 of our school districts across our 10-county region. We saved families, again, the $5.3 million through through Career Academy and concurrent enrollment classes last year. We can do more. The pandemic taught us that you don't have to necessarily drive to a campus to receive education. And online education may not be the best for 16, 17, 18-year-old high school students. But now that we have all of our classes virtually, we have the opportunity to let students log in from their high school in a space that we provide technology, and they take classes from Indian Hills. So we're excited. There's a lot of positive energy right now on our college campus. We know that we've got the best days ahead of us as a college yet, and we're really thankful for the groundwork that has been laid by the folks that came before us. This is our next step and really continue to be able to serve the business and industry community across our region. And we certainly encourage people to know the facts, know what's out there, and make sure they vote on November 2nd. Individuals can vote in Wapello County beginning on our campus on October 19th, Tuesday the 19th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the formal lounge of Indian Hills. They can vote at the courthouse anytime ahead of November 2nd. And we certainly want to make sure that we move forward and provide a great quality education here close to home. On the back, you'll see information about the impact on taxpayers. Again, we've been able to raise and save $8 million to decrease the ask of our public. And so on a home that's valued at $50,000, you're looking at $5.76 per year of increase. A home that's valued at $75,000, $8.64 per year of increase. On a $100,000 home, you're looking at less than $1 per month or $11.52 per year. On the agricultural side, you're looking at an average across our region on agricultural land of 15 cents per acre. And that's a far cry from what some rumors had been back in 2016 when we took a bond referendum out that it was going to be $1 per acre. We've really tried to make sure with our Farm Bureau members that they know and understand what that increase looks like for them. Last thing I would say is it's been since 1983 that Indian Hills has passed a bond referendum. I can tell you right now that the time and energy we've put into this, I don't want to do this again. And have no plan. We're not going to come back in 5 more years and ask for more money. We want to get this done because the priorities and the projects, I think, have been well vetted, and they're things that we believe will help advance our college for many years to come. With that, I take any questions that you may have.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I did have one question come in. Who won the challenge between the schools?
Yeah. You tell McGrory if he's going to ask those questions, he needs to show up here. Was he? Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I'll take your non-response as an answer.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Thompson. We appreciate your enlightening the council in particular, and we also appreciate the great working relationships we have with Indian Hills, and you have some outstanding personnel that we've had the pleasure of working with. So we look forward to continue working with you and your staff as we move forward. So
Thank you, Mayor. Have a good night.
okay, Phil, you want to keep going?
I will. Next thing in here on the agenda is the Bridge City Sanitation update. So as part of the new contract, we are to have quarterly meetings. It was something that was written into the contract, and Zach Simonson, myself, and Janice Main had met with representatives from Bridge City Sanitation. That was last week. I'd say it was a very positive meeting. We talked through some of the items that had been presented, any positive or negative comments that had come through, kind of looking on both sides, either that came to the city or came to Bridge City Sanitation, looking to see if there was any trends or anything that needed to be addressed from either perspective. One of the common things that was realized by both is the number of calls had declined. So both sides saw a decrease in number of customer calls and complaints. To partly that may be that at least the city didn't receive as many because they have staffed 2 individuals to monitor phones on their side. So they are getting a lot of those calls initially. something that may be a garbage, a missed pickup, or some other issue that can be resolved readily is being handled as such now, so they don't rise to the level of complaints in some cases. A couple of things that were mentioned where the city can help to educate the public and help with the service overall is just reminding people and working with realtors and people that are moving to and from locations that the garbage and recycling totes stay with the property. So sometimes someone will move into a new property and there is no totes there for them to put their garbage or recycling in. And there is a little bit of a lag time on getting those to customers. So if they don't have anything in stock, it may be several weeks before we can get that to them. So those should stay with the property. If your house number isn't visible, making it so that it can be seen more readily from the street, not only for the garbage service, but that also helps public safety when they're out looking for areas and neighborhoods. If you have a new route driver or other things, they may not be familiar with the properties, and that will help. So if somebody calls in and they have a pickup at a certain address, the driver can go past, but maybe not know what the specific street number that is if it's not visible. To that end, making sure that people are calling bulky items in. And we were informed, and we're going to be adding this to our website, that in addition to calling, people can now email their request in to have bulky items picked up as well. And so we'll get the email address added to our website to assist people with that. They're in the process of developing a website. That is something that is in the works as well. And we started discussion about a spring cleanup day, and there'll be more to come as we approach that. We're looking at a date possibly in April or May at this point. So overall, it was a positive update, and we'll continue to have those and continue to improve upon the service. So, next up on the agenda, we mentioned about the primary election is being held today. So that is being done to help narrow the candidates from 3 mayoral candidates to 2, and from 9 council members to 6. And that is then the narrowed candidates will be fighting it out for the city election, which will be held November 2nd of this year, 2021. So not only get out and vote today if you haven't done so already, but also don't forget to vote on November 2nd, and that will determine your next mayor, our next council members, and again, the top vote getter on that date, November 2nd, will replace the Skip Stevens' vacant seat, which we have being filled right now by Councilman Rick Johnson. So I think that's all I have for tonight.
I would just add to your comments, we did originally have another presentation scheduled tonight, but because of time and also electronic complications, we are going to have a CAD presentation next regular council meeting on the 19th. And so I would encourage council and any citizens who are interested to come and hear that presentation. It's certainly, it's part of one of the ideas that came out. Remember, we did have a public meeting and we had over 23 different items or suggestions for how to spend some of the ARPA money, the American Rescue Plan Act money. And this is one of them, and it's certainly one that has to deal with public safety. So we're trying to get as much background information so people can understand it. It's a big project, but one that certainly is needed in our community. So we'll do that on the 19th. Item E in our agenda, we always give citizens a chance to have input on items on the agenda, and we did receive one tonight. So I would call Bridget Michael to the microphone. She can make her comments.
Hi, my name is Bridget Michael. I live at 318 Bonita Avenue here in Ottumwa. I bought this property because it was a nice, quiet neighborhood, well taken care of. Everybody knows everybody. They all work together to keep the area clean. Then all of a sudden, a gentleman sells the property. JBS is building 100 housing units, apartments there on the property. Did they ever ask the neighborhood, did they want this? Did they want the urban renewal on the property, on the, the area? No. No one was ever considered or talked to about this. Building housing projects for low, mid-income families, as it states in the paper, statistics show crime rate goes up, property value goes down. I pay high taxes in this area to live in a nice area where there's no crime. What's going to happen? The crime rate's going to go up. Eisenhower School. My kids have always attended Eisenhower School. I have 7 children. I've supported all of them. I work hard every day to provide for my kids and now my grandkids. And Eisenhower School is going to get overrun. What about hiring bilingual teachers for Eisenhower School? There's going to be so many extra students going to the school, they won't be able to handle it. If you want low to mid-income housing, build it by JBS where they can walk to work. Okay, we didn't want it in our neighborhood. Nobody asked. And they say they're going to redo the road. The road's not broke. But if you put this housing unit, guess what? That road's not going to handle it. It's one way in or out. And you're going to have 100 to 200 cars. If you put 100 units there, different apartments, you're going to have 100 to 200 cars in there. Okay, and where's the traffic going to go? You can't. There's just, if they built it at the airport, that would have been amazing. Over by JBS, they could walk to school if their cars broke. And that's what I can't understand. They never bothered asking anybody. They're just looking at the almighty dollar. They're building this for their workers and everything. And I understand that there's a housing shortage in Ottumwa. But you know what? Think about the cost. If you're going to build something, build it next to JBS. They can either walk to work, to have a little bus shuttle, something like that. Not clear on the north side of town. We've all lived there for a lot of years. And now all of a sudden, I'm going to have to lock my doors. I'm going to have security systems, alarms on everything. I'm going to have to put a gate up and a fence up around my property. And I shouldn't have to do that. And that's what I'm about. I don't want the housing unit. I know JBS bought it. If you're going to do something good. Build over there by JBS so they can walk to work. They're going to employ a lot more people. I know. Everybody is having an issue with hiring. So do I. I'm a plant supervisor for a corporation. Okay? I care about the employees. But, do what's right. And, the agenda doing urban renewal in that area, it doesn't need it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Is there anyone else? I have one more, but we'll do that at the item K for our public input. It's not on an agenda item specifically. Is there anyone else? I would make the comment just because it came up in a recent forum that we always have input on our council agenda, both for items on the agenda as well as any city business. So the comment that the city is not open to hearing comments, I think you just made a good point. We heard from you. We didn't know you were coming tonight, but we always encourage input. And they also can send information to our city clerk, whether it be written or phone messages. So I think sometimes this issue of openness and transparency gets overplayed and under-regulated because I think, as a city have been very, very much open to citizens' input. Let's move to item F, please.
Consideration of options to settle a pending obligation to the Iowa DOT related to a 2013 Revitalize Iowa's Sound Economy grant awarded for an Iowa Avenue project. Recommendation: approve and authorize the city to use a portion of future road use tax funds to settle up with the Iowa DOT the balance owed following project completion and evaluation.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second. Thank you. And Phil, you're going to take this?
Certainly. So this goes back some time, about 8 years actually. This project and grant was discussed and passed on January 23rd, 2013. City Council adopted Resolution 19-2013, which approved the city submit an application under the Revitalize or the RISE program. Further, the resolution authorized the city to commit $792,795 for a capital improvement project, which was reconstruction of Iowa Avenue. The RISE program is an Iowa DOT incentive program to locate and/or expand an employer in the state of Iowa. The program allows the Iowa DOT to reimburse the city for project expenses in exchange for future job creation resulting from the project. In this particular case, property owner Cargill Meat Solutions at that time supported the project and anticipated the creation of 120 jobs within 2 years following completion of the project, which was, I believe, around August of 2014. The Iowa DOT awarded the grant under the RISE Immediate Opportunity Program and actually reimbursed the city $1,172,195 toward the project. On or around July 1st, 2015, Cargill Meat Solutions sold the property to JBS USA, which is the current owner. The Iowa DOT completed a review of the project and associated job creation and identified that neither employer had met the job creation requirement during the 6-month monitoring period. In accordance with the grant documents, the penalty for this failure is reimbursement of the proportionate share of additional RISE grant funds provided under the immediate opportunity provision, which is that part that's based upon the actual jobs created compared to the required jobs created. Based upon the Iowa DOT calculations of $1,658,563 were eligible project costs, the city was reimbursed the $1.17 million under the program, of which $392,913 was tied to the job creation requirement. So we did receive 50%. The $392,913 was above that and tied to job creation. Although JBS USA has since experienced job creation above the levels identified, neither company illustrated additional job growth during that monitoring period. As a result, the Iowa DOT is recommending to the Iowa Transportation Commission that the project be declared in noncompliance and has provided the city with 3 options for repayment. Those options are either a lump sum payment, 2 installment payments with interest, or 3 charges against the city's share of the road use tax fund. Based upon the options, city staff believes the best option available is option 3, to have the state withhold future RUTF funds up to that $392,913. The share of RUTF is estimated to be approximately 10 to 15% of the annual aid. So we get about $3 million a year. Additionally, this option would allow the city to properly budget for that lost revenue in future years. So that is the reason for that. I had been in conversation with the DOT on this as far as any kind of appeal process or anything else. We did not meet it during that time. This is the result of that. So really what it is which way do we plan to reimburse that. This is money that was above and beyond the regular RISE program, which is a 50% reimbursement. So had the city been able to have those jobs created and not only created, but they have to be jobs at a certain pay rate and qualified under that. So they have to be qualifying jobs as part of the program. It was not met at that time. And so it is an obligation that we have back to the state on this.
Yeah, if I may, Mayor.
Yes,
Councilman
I was
Myers.
on the council in 2013, so I get some credit for this. It was a project that was needed and worked out really well. I mean, it's useful today because of what we did in 2013. And when I read this for the staff for this meeting, I thought, well, why not a 4th option? And yet then I found out that we had what I thought as a 4th option. Administrator Rath and others on the staff had attempted. It's like, one company sells out to another company. Sometimes those transitions create problems of whether you could add the staff or the employees you thought you could. The economy is part of it, what happens within that period of time. But I do appreciate the fact that you did reach out to DOT and tried to communicate with them. Is there some other way or could they be a little more understanding? So thank you for having made that effort.
Yeah, and they have been trying to close this out since 2019, actually, is my understanding. So even if jobs have been created beyond that monitoring period or within the last year or 2 years, that is way past when they would have closed that out typically. So you are correct. It was a project that was needed at the time. And again, the city, I guess, we're not particularly being penalized. We were given extra funds at that time, which because we didn't meet the obligations under the grant, we have to reimburse. And that's one of the things, and I know council members with experience here have realized this, and staff that have dealt with grants. Grants are great when you can meet all the criteria and all the eligibility requirements and everything else. Sometimes there are stipulations that come with it, and if you can't meet that, it may be better to not take the grant or look at other options. Here's one where the money was received up front and we're having to reimburse it at a later date because that, despite best efforts, the obligation was not met.
And just for clarification purposes, the 392 was the amount that was tied to the jobs creation, but the official letter from the DOT says that the amount to be repaid is 342,913. So I think we want to be sure the record is reflecting that and we're accurate. That's on DOT letterhead from their director.
So, Your Honor, just for clarification, I have a question. So basically what we're saying here is that we applied for a grant, we received payment, and JBS failed to add 122 jobs to their factory, and now we got to put this money on the taxpayer. Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, is
Well,
that it in
this-
a nutshell, or am I off on this?
No,
It's sure-
no,
what is
not
presented.
exactly. So the city still did receive $829,000 towards that. At the time, it was 1.1 million. The 300, and thank you for correcting the 342, it must be a typo in there. So it's 342,913 is needing to be returned. The city had been, we'll say, advanced that money.
Right.
So the reason we're repaying it is because that part wasn't met. But that isn't on JBS. That would be on maybe Cargill. And that if it wasn't relayed or in the transition, in the timing.
Sounds like that might
that
have been
didn't
something
happen.
they might have wanted to relay. That's a pretty big change.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
and
was going to be my question too, was there communication between the staff and Cargill or JBS, whoever it was, to make sure that this followed through the way it was, the way it should have at the time?
And here's one thing that was stated when I talked to DOT, and I think I've stated in other times too, is when we go into agreements like this, and despite requests, we haven't come across anything. This is where it's really on the city. Unfortunately, as much as I hate to say this, but city 8 years ago, that we didn't get an agreement with Cargill at the time to say if they don't create those jobs, they would reimburse that money. And that was on us as a city to not have that in place because it is the city's responsibility, and there's talking with the state. There's dialogue back and forth. This isn't on either of the employers. This is between the city because we didn't have any kind of agreement that would have transferred or anything else. We're ultimately responsible for that.
Good question, though. Good questions.
Can I just add to that? I was just going to add as well that in my time that I've been here working with JBS, they've given us all the information we can get to try to make a case. We were working with DOT. They were able to say, we'll give you everything that we can to show that we've added jobs since then. They've been really cooperative with us on this. And having just grown up in Ottumwa, I remember it was a difficult transition. It's one of those things that we're coming back and
Okay, so there's a motion and second on the floor. Are you ready to vote? Take the roll, please.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Burke,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Consideration of request for contribution to Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress to complete an airport analysis and comprehensive land use plan to further economic development in the area. Recommendation: approve and authorize the city to contribute $10,000 to Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress toward the completion of an airport analysis and comprehensive land use plan for the airport and surrounding area.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
And Phil, you're going to cover this?
I will, and I'm going to briefly go over this and then turn it over. We have Sharon Stroh from GoPip is here. So the Sharon is kind of taking the lead on this, and kind of gotten us to this point and has submitted the request to my attention to be put on the agenda and before you tonight. So in brief, the Our Ottumwa 2040 Comprehensive Plan, adopted last August of 2020, identifies growth as one of the 4 themes or guiding principles related to the vision for the city of Ottumwa. Economic development is a major driver for growth, and the airport was a key feature for commercial and industrial properties. In fact, one of the growth goals identified under economic development section is to invest in airport infrastructure by conducting a feasibility study to assess the future expansion and development possibilities. Sharon, in coordination with city staff, took on the goal and identified Bolton Mank as the company to complete such a study. Project proposal from Bolton Mank and the scope of work was attached to the summary for reference. The cost for completing the work is $58,500, and the city is being asked to contribute $10,000 towards that. With that, maybe I'll turn it over to Sharon, and she can kind of help discuss different partners that have been and why you decided to take this up on our behalf.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for allowing me to be here. Yes, I think for a couple of years now, we've talked about our airport being kind of a diamond in the rough. And actually, there has been a lot of conversation and many opportunities for us to be considering looking at expanding the services and availability of not just buildings, but land that are available. The entire budget comes from $58,500. Of course, Go Pip taking the lead on this. We would like to contribute our own $10,000, so or at least matching what we're requesting of the city. Wapello County has also been requested that same contribution. I would suspect that their answer would probably have something to do with your response here tonight. We've also requested some additional support from Legacy, and then our utility providers, Alliant Energy, ITC, and Mid-American Energy. And then, of course, there's been a small contribution requested also from Indian Hills Community College as a property owner. So together, we think that we can make this relatively painless when it comes to dollar amounts that everybody would be sharing. I want to talk about some of the expected measurable results so that you have an understanding of what we're looking at here by the time we're finished with this, which should take about 6 months. We want to determine, first of all, the organizational control and how land is transferred or developed within the site. As I mentioned, there are some private owners. There is obviously some interest with the college. And then, of course, there's city and county money. We also want to examine existing easements or rights of way within the site. We want to explore any covenants or regulations required by DOD since it's a former naval air station and or FAA. We'd like to develop a site layout so that we can better understand how we can carve up some of these lots. We want to walk away with a universal understanding of developable acres, zoning, and mutually agreed upon annexation processes if necessary. We want to establish a universal understanding of road access, road improvements, and road weight restrictions. We'd also like to have a universal understanding of utility access and or extension requirements. So we're getting an awful lot for our money. And this is, as I mentioned, about a 6-month process. This does not go as deep or as far as actually becoming a certified site, but it does give us a better understanding and complete some due diligence so that we have folks that are looking at properties. And I might add, there are 3 that are looking at properties out there right now at the airport complex. We have answers available to them, whether it's us, whether it's your own staff, or whether it's somebody else within an engineering or a permitting body. That's it in a nutshell, but I'll take questions.
Any questions for Sharon?
Sharon, what did you mean when you said certified plan?
Oh, a
It's not
certified site?
Yeah.
For instance, Helgerson Flats is considered certified. That means that it went through the process of making sure that all of the risk was eliminated from that property. It's had archaeological, wetland, endangered species, et cetera, which is a much deeper and much more expensive process, I might add. But at this point, we're not looking at certification, although we could take it to that next level. It all depends on how many zeros are in the checkbook. But right now, Rick, we're talking about doing an analysis that gives us uniform information so that all of us will have the same information if a prospect calls.
could this company later on do the certification if that was deemed appropriate, since they'll have already a lot of information about the site?
They could definitely play a role. Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress, as you know, is a public-private partnership. We're not solely dependent on tax dollars. We're not required to take bids, but we did. There were 2 that we required, or that we requested bids on this particular item. They came within $400 of one another. So quite honestly, I felt very comfortable that both of them were probably going to meet our needs satisfactorily.
Sharon, could you, I know you said that there was 3 prospects looking at the airport now. Could you explain a little bit more for the public on what having this done, if people are already looking at it, how this helps on essentially sealing the deal of them coming to that site?
Well, here's what's interesting is you've got to build, or, you've got a manufacturer that perhaps is already on property that's owned out there in the area, and they want to look at expansion. Whether it's the 2 or 3 acres next to them or whether it's something that's adjacent to. They don't have any information on what's available to them on that vacant property that seems to be so close that that's how they would like to expand. We can't even offer them a price because we haven't been able to do the analysis or get the regulations from FAA that allow us to set a price per acre. I mean, it's as simple as that. We don't know the infrastructure that might be available and where that would have to be extended from, where's the closest. And I believe that this information probably in some stage, way, shape, or form, exists somewhere. We just haven't seen it on an overlay yet. So again, this would give us universal access.
Thank you.
Councilman Myers?
Yeah, if I may. And Sharon, this is not directed at you, but because of what the ask is, I do have a couple of comments which are my opinion, not speaking
Certainly.
for the rest of the council, but this is, we've been on the GoPip Partners thing almost 5 years. I think we're into the 4th year. And if it were up for review right now, I would really hesitate whether to support it. And one of those reasons is forever, and prior to what GoPip was and the original umbrella partners, it was always that we aren't together on how people ask questions about coming here or doing things like that. Point in fact, this evening I saw, before I came to this meeting, our finance director and the Post announced a business in Albia that is going to expand to Ottumwa.
Superior Machine, yes.
Yeah, that didn't come from GoPip. That came from our finance director and the Post.
That's not accurate. GoPip put out the press release.
We drafted the press release ourselves,
Wait a minute.
but that's
We're going
okay.
to keep order and decor here. So one person talks at a time, and you have to be recognized by the chair. So Mr. Myers has the floor until he's finished.
Yeah, thank you. And I will gladly, in a minute, listen to that clarification. But I guess just part of the confusion is, and again, you'll need to correct me, but I'm pretty sure that GoPip, Wafalua County never invested any funds into the program. And yet I understand, and I'm probably going to vote for this because I think what it does for all the entities involved, it's probably a good thing. But I guess I am curious, and your comment about, well, maybe Wafalua County will invest in it. Maybe it depends on what we do tonight. But I just wanted to be upfront, not to you, because I understand that GoPip right now has a interim person working and they're looking at some reorganization, but accountability is awfully important to me. So, okay, so if someone wants to correct me on that news release.
Sharon, would you respond then, please?
Sure, no problem. Actually, yes, there have been constant contributions from the county to our organization, at least since I've been employed there, which is only 8 years. Can't verify anything previous to that, but the county has made at least equal contributions from as what the city makes. What else was your question? The accountability?
Well, the Post, the fact that I wasn't being critical of our finance director. I just thought what I saw as a release was that it came from so correct me.
I did write the press release for that. I worked with the president of their corporation until we got that press release finalized and ready for print. So it did go out to the media just as it went to the board of directors and all of my staff, or all of the staff at Greater Ottumwa Partners in Progress this afternoon. It was kind of a late afternoon,
Okay.
but I do have it available if you would like to, if you'd like me to leave you a copy of it. It simply states that Superior Machine, which is headquartered in Albia, is looking to expand. They've been looking to expand to Ottumwa since 2018. We've been looking for the appropriate place for them to set up a machining operation as well as warehousing. And that time was finally available to come to fruition when they were looking at the address, which is 150 Foxsack Road, otherwise known as the former Pioneer Seed Warehouse. It's just east of the Armory. So they purchased it, and with improvements, it'll be about a $4 million new investment for Ottumwa.
Super. Okay, and I did have one other point, Sharon, and it was, besides GoPIP then,
Yes.
and this organization, is there communication coordination with our community planning department in the city?
I think that's very much improved these days. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Berg, you had a comment or a question?
I was just
Statement?
clarifying that that was inaccurate, that GoPIP had put out the press release and it had Sharon's contact info on the press release.
Okay, very good. Any
I
other?
would just add that there are sometimes many points of entry when somebody is looking for something. Many times Zach will be the first one that hears about it because somebody wants to pull a sign permit first. Then we get, pulled into it a little bit later when they start looking for incentives or what is available for us if we move our operation to your to your community. So yes, we do work together. And I would just say that Zach and I have probably worked better than other staff members over the years.
Other questions or comments for either Sharon or Phil? Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to approve the contribution of $10,000 to Greater Ottumwa. So you would be the holder of the study then?
Yes.
You are the
Obviously, all the
purchaser.
partners would receive their own copy based on their contribution, of course.
Ready to vote? Take the roll, please.
Councilmember Rowe,
I will abstain.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sharon.
Resolution number 186, 2021, approving change order number 2, accepting the work as final and complete, and approving the final pay request for the 1331 runway reconstruction project at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 186, 2021.
Is there a motion?
The recommendation is presented.
Second.
Thank you.
I
Cover
will
this, Phil?
be taking this tonight, yes. Manats Inc. of Brooklyn, Iowa was awarded the contract for the 1331 runway project on July 3rd of 2018. The original amount was $6,440,701.04. There was a change order number 1 approved on October 15th, 2019. That was for the Pappies and the Mulsar. Change order number 2 will increase the contract by $123,800.57 for quantity adjustments. The work has been completed, and we're looking to approve the final payment. Let's see.
374.
Yeah, so the original was $6,440,701. We have made payments in the amount of 6,613 and change. Final amount due is $374,025.04.
Any questions for Phil? Good to see this getting wrapped up.
Yeah.
Ready to vote? Take the roll, please.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution number 187, 2021, authorizing advancement of costs for an urban renewal project and certification of expenses incurred by the city for reimbursement under Iowa Code Section 40319. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 187, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Good evening, Kayla. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The City of Ottumwa has entered into a development agreement with Cobblestone Hotels LLC in the Westgate Economic Development Urban Renewal Area. The resolution, this resolution is authorizing the advancement of costs not to exceed $75,000. And this is only if the site remediation and site preparation is needed per the development agreement that you guys had voted on the last meeting. The City of Ottumwa will be able to certify any of these costs up to the $75,000 to debt for this TIF district with this resolution.
Any questions for Kayla? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 188, 2021, a resolution determining the necessity and setting dates of a consultation and a public hearing on a proposed Bonita urban renewal plan for a proposed urban renewal area in the city of Ottumwa, state of Iowa. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 188, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, Zach, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I'm going to spend some more time getting into detail on this beyond just what it means to set the dates, because I want to use this opportunity to make the project goals and the idea of what we're trying to do with this urban renewal area very clear for the benefit of the public, for the benefit of the council. And so I also will, when I'm finished sort of introducing this, I'll call up some folks from JBS, Joe Mock and Zenna Boyd, who want to share some information about this project, and also the developer Ryan Hugrick is here tonight. Hugrick Construction is seeking to create 108 units of housing on a 10-acre property on Bonita Avenue. The development will include 3 multifamily buildings. The developer is interested in obtaining tax increment financing rebate for the project. And in order to use TIF, the property would have to be included in an urban renewal area. And this resolution begins the process of establishing a Bonita urban renewal area. The area would include the development property as well as a section of Bonita Avenue. No other properties will be included in the urban renewal area. In order to establish an urban renewal area, the council has to approve an urban renewal plan, and the Bonita urban renewal plan was included in the packet. It covers the development property and the section of Bonita Avenue that I described above. Iowa code requires that the urban renewal plan include language designating what the use of the plan will be, or the type of urban renewal area that we will have, whether that's blight remediation, economic development, LMI housing, et cetera. And each designation has distinct limits on what types of powers we can exercise in that urban renewal area. In this case, this plan designates the Bonita urban renewal area as an economic development area appropriate for the development of new low to moderate income housing units and housing which is necessary to encourage the retention or relocation of industrial and commercial enterprises. Low to moderate income housing is a term that also requires some more explanation because it can cover a wide range of different developments, from something where it's income verified, low to no income housing, to workforce housing, which is the case here. For this community, the Housing and Urban Development Department establishes a 60% of LMI affordable rate of up to $979 for a 2-bedroom unit and $1,131 for a 3-bedroom unit. And in this proposal, the developer is committing to have the rent rates below that 60% LMI level, and will not be doing any other additional steps, or will not be providing any other types of income qualification. This is a development that's affordable because of the rent, not because of some sort of vetting of who the tenants are going to be. Also, the proposed projects in the Bonita urban renewal area have to be included in the urban renewal plan. And in this case, that includes the urban renewal, the Bonita plan, or the Bonita housing project, which would have a proposed tax increment financing rebate of up to 100% of the incremental value generated on the housing development for 20 years, not to exceed $3.5 million. Tax increment financing is an urban renewal power that's given to cities, and it allows us to leverage future tax value to incentivize growth. We would lock in a base value at the time that we establish the urban renewal plan, and any tax value added above that base value is something that we could capture. We take out certain levies, the physical improvement or the physical plant levies for the schools, the debt service levies for the other taxing entities, but there is other tax levies that would go to other taxing entities that could be included in what we can capture. And so we do also have to have, as a part of this planning process, a consultation meeting with our other taxing entities. The idea here would be to rebate the amount of the increment that we can collect and rebate that back to the developer in order to provide an incentive to make the project feasible. And the developer is going to speak as to why that's a necessary incentive. Another project that's included in the plan is street repair or reconstruction for Bonita. This is a lesson that we learned with the Washington apartments, that we know that potential construction activity can cause the need for more urgent street repair or reconstruction. And so we were trying to be proactive. In this case, we did estimate the cost to repair at about $250,000. And so we did include a project in the urban renewal plan to capture potential tax increment from the development to fund the repair and reconstruction if that's necessary. And then finally, the plan does include planning, engineering fees, and other costs as a possible debt that we can certify under the urban renewal plan. This is something that other communities have been doing. It's a little bit of a more proactive way of thinking smart about how to use our TIF districts to fund the activities that we do. And it's something that we might bring to you when we look at reviewing the existing plans as well, so that we can be a little bit more out there with how we're financing our planning activities and some of our other costs. The resolution does not approve the urban renewal plan tonight or any of the incentives that we've described above. This is just a resolution to establish the dates and set up the consultation meeting. The next steps will include that consultation meeting with the taxing entities, as well as a public hearing and a planning and zoning recommendation as well. And those are going to have opportunities for public feedback. This is far from the last chance that people have to speak about this, but I think it is important tonight that we get a really clear feeling of what this project is so that we know what to expect as we move forward. I do also want to identify here that the proposed development property was already rezoned to R4 multifamily residential a couple years ago. There was an opportunity at that time for a public hearing, and that was already approved by a past council. And that is an element to consider here, that the developer can complete the project by right because the property is rezoned. The urban renewal area and the conversations that we're going to be having here about what is the appropriate level for the city to be involved in providing the incentives necessary to push a quality project to completion. The 2040 Ottumwa Comprehensive Plan and the ongoing housing study have both identified housing as a critical economic development barrier and a quality of life issue for residents in Ottumwa. Insufficient and inadequate housing is a barrier to our commercial and economic growth, and more housing is necessary to retain existing industry and to give our existing industry the flexibility to grow, and for Sharon and I and other folks to help recruit and bring in new industry. We also hope that providing better, higher quality rental housing stock can create a market pressure that would improve our existing rental housing stock, because we have been made aware throughout the study, throughout public comments, that there are issues in that area. Addressing the housing challenges in our community is going to require us to make some very difficult decisions. We have a limited number of lots, especially a limited number of lots that are already zoned R4 and suitable for this type of development. And we really have to be open to confronting the problem, making the investments that we have to do if we're going to be able to sustain the industry that we have, and if we're going to be able to sustain any kind of growth. Finally, JBS has played a role in the project. They recruited the developer, and they might provide some of their own incentives to the project. But this is a project that is being done by Hugrick Construction with JBS as an interested party. They are the area's largest employers. They're especially aware of the challenges that housing creates in attracting and retaining talent. And I let them kind of come up and speak to the purpose and the needs for this project.
Good evening,
Good evening,
everyone.
Ryan.
Thanks for letting me speak tonight. Zach has been instrumental in this process, done a great job. I think it was almost 2 years ago I came to the city and with this idea, we're finally getting over these humps and moving forward. A little bit about myself. Our construction company has built about 150 hotels to date. We've owned and operated quite a few of those. Multifamily is our next phase. And I just want the narrative out there that this project will be a quality project. This will be owned by my family, and this is our future. So we will take pride in what we accomplish here. And to go off of what Zach was saying earlier, this is, I think, is our 5th lot we've looked at in Ottumwa. 4 others failed to be buildable or work in the city confines. So this site is zoned correctly. It's a perfect lot. I don't know if any of you folks have made it out there yet. Quite a bit of grading has been done. Trees have been removed. It's a great looking site. So we're super excited and glad to be here. Joe, you want to say something?
Good evening, Joe. Would you identify yourself?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the company and here with Ryan tonight. So a little bit of information about myself. My name is Joe Mock. I am the general manager at JBS. I've been employed with JBS for going on 12 years. I've been the general manager down here in Ottumwa for about 2.5 years. So when I first got down here to Ottumwa 2.5 years ago, there was a labor shortage. Before COVID, there was a labor shortage. And right now there's still a labor shortage. And one of the biggest issues we run into as we go all over the country trying to recruit family units to relocate to the fine community of Ottumwa is affordable housing. So we do the best. We try to put them up in hotels. We do everything we possibly can, but we still run into the same roadblock where they run out of time, they run out of patience, they have nowhere to live, they're tired of trying to integrate into the community, living out of Hotel Ottumwa or the Hampton, and we lose them. And these are good, talented people. They're making good money. JBS has got some of the highest wages in the county. We're pretty proud of taking care of our employees and paying them what we pay. Entry level walks in at over $19 an hour. Maintenance ranges to $30, $33 an hour. So these are high paying jobs, skilled labor, and they're very hard jobs to find. So we partnered up with Ryan here. This is a conversation actually that plays out in city after city after city where we have plants. Worthington, Minnesota doing a similar project. Marshalltown, Iowa doing a similar project. Beardstown, Illinois, all doing similar projects because we're all in the same boat with the employee shortages. So we're a little bit further along than a lot of those other sites, which is something that we're all really proud of and Ottumwa should be proud of as well. For the record, I do live in Ottumwa. I live on the north side, actually not too far away from this location. And I have kids in public schools, and I have zero concern about putting up some really nice housing that's a perk for both recruiting and retention for our employees, which are extremely hard to find right now.
Okay, Counselor, are there any questions you want to direct to either one of the three? And Zena?
Your Honor, I guess I'll lead off. So first of all, I agree that we do need housing here. It was put out in the comprehensive plan that is one of the priorities that we have. So understanding that we're just setting dates to have this, to continue this conversation. And I want to preface everything that I'm going to say with, I don't mean any offense by this. I'm glad that you guys are taking the lead on this and trying to put housing up here. But I try when we make decisions, and I think that we've done a fairly good job over the last couple of years of asking some fairly critical questions and just making decisions based on data. So some of the things that we have not heard about that I think is important as we go through this process is, you know, what is the impact on the property values in that general area? Is it going to increase? Is it going to decrease? Is it going to remain relatively the same? Because we really haven't heard the answer to that. And I know some of that speculation, but it would be nice to have a general idea, especially when you talk about having to redo streets. What's the traffic load that those streets, all of those streets in that area are going to take on? And the TIF, I'm a very big fan of TIF. However, I'm not exactly a fan of creating new TIFs. So I question, I have a little bit of a concern about that. And I know our good friends up the hill at the supervisor's office are definitely not fans of creating new TIFs. And I know, one of the arguments that they've posed for a long time is TIFs generally don't help their general fund out. And if we're giving back 100%, clearly it isn't going to help our general fund out all too much either. So, and again, when we talk about the value over the $3.5 million, when we get to that point of really having solid plans, do we know what that value is, or are we just giving just free tax abatement for the next 20 years, or is there going to be something of value added, especially since we are creating a new TIF district? I don't expect an answer tonight. They're just points to ponder.
I will just say to some of those, because there's a lot of things to answer to that, and there's some things we'll have to research and get back to you. One of those that's going to be tougher to get is the estimated value that we're going to have on property tax, because we haven't recently been very successful at getting some of these projects done. The one exception would be the Washington Apartments. And in that case, property values are going to be significantly different in the West Side neighborhood as they would be in this area here. That was a neighborhood where property values were already trending down. This is a different case. So it'll be something that we'll try to research and put together a good picture about, that it's just straightforward and based on the numbers. The other thing I do want to speak to just a little bit about would be that one of the reservations that I know the county would have, or other taxing entities might have with TIF districts, is when we include a lot of properties, because that gives us some flexibility where we can generate increment in areas that aren't necessarily benefiting from the project and still capture that increment and use it to pay for the project. Because this area is just going to be the one parcel and the street, it's some kind of what they've been calling micro TIF. We aren't going to be able to collect and benefit from other types of growth and only use it for our purposes. If there is growth in surrounding parcels, that's still going to benefit everybody. And I think that's a small advantage to these sorts of things. And as was the case with Agassiz, when we were able to convince the county that that would be beneficial if that Agassiz project ever happens to have that in its own urban renewal area, that's a mitigation, at least in this case. And then I didn't know if there was anything that y'all wanted to share to answer any of those questions further.
Well, I'll just say real quickly too, along the lines of creating a new TIF, we will have to have a consultation meeting with the other taxing jurisdictions that would be impacted. So that's like the first step, is having that before we can even move forward into the urban renewal plan or the creation. So we will have conversations with those partners.
So the TIF is a critical piece of this puzzle. With the high cost of construction today, whether it be labor, materials, lack thereof on either end, and the appraisers have not grasped those costs yet. So I just got my appraisal back on this project. It was nowhere near where we needed it to be. So this TIF is a huge piece that, could make or break this project from being successful, or a smaller project if need be. So with that in mind, when I first came here with Joe, the city overwhelmingly, we need housing, we need housing, we need housing. Well, we're here. This isn't a half measure. This is an all-in. 108 units is a big development, and we're confident in that it will work. We're confident in the people that we will bring in that will be living there. We're confident in that we will maintain a quality housing project.
Your Honor, I got a few comments and questions.
Go ahead, Matt.
And I know we're setting a date. I know Councilmember Rowe, brought that to light, and I understand that it's not a decision or anything tonight, but, I have a problem with, and I'll just get this out there, with rebatements if they're not applied to the right project. And what I mean by that is, if we're going to rebate tax money or future tax money, there's got to be something in it for the city of Ottumwa. There's got to be something. Like with the hotel project, that's going to, generate hotel motel tax revenue coming back to the city to help fund roads, public safety, those types of things. And so when I see a project that is asking for a 20-year rebatement, where the city is basically going to receive no revenue, and I know there's other positives that's going to come out of this development. I don't know at what point as a city we got to say we can't continue to do this and keep saying that we want our streets fixed and we want more revenue to come into the city. And I know it's a tough call for me, but a couple questions may change my mind. I see the hotel as a good project for rebatement. I don't see housing. I know we've done housing in the community. We've done a lot of it. And I don't see keep giving away those things that won't come back and help our community as a whole. But my question is this. I'm a worker too. And after working 20 to 30 years, I'd like to call a home my own. I want to have something tangible that I've worked for all those years. So in here, it says that you see this project as a first step toward future development, which would include opportunities for home ownership and other types of residential development. And that caught my eye because, like I said, I'm a worker, and I think at the end of those years of working, that something tangible that somebody can own would be, at least in my view, something to work for and not just a building. So how do you see these opportunities for home ownership? Is this a stepping, you said it was kind of a stepping stone to those future things. Could you kind of explain to me how that works? Because the rents paid here are pretty high as far as, single family home, 50 to 80,000. I know we don't have a lot of them, but that's a $500 to $600 a month payment. Those payments are double here. Are these folks having issues with credit, or explain to me how this might, in the end, lead up to home ownership? Because to me as a councilman, I want to see single family units that the city can benefit from. I want to see subdivisions. I don't want to keep seeing rebatement. So, but if this is a necessary step toward that, then I would be on board with it.
Okay. So the numbers Zach mentioned, the dollar amounts, those are the LMI numbers, meaning we have to come below those numbers. We can't be any higher than that. And our actual rent rates are $740 and $880, 2 and 3 bedroom units. So with that amount, those are all utilities included. So living here is cheaper than, I own a house as well. I know what it costs to own a home, and you can't own a home with utilities and everything for that amount of money. So the stepping stone is, we hope with this great price of rent and that you can start to save your money to move into another form of housing, whether it's single family, maybe it's a duplex, maybe it's something that a condo. And the second part of us being here is, that's our goal. Our goal is not to do one project in Ottumwa. We want to do single family. We want to do condos. We want to do townhouses. Those are all these things we want to do, but this is our break in to show it. We want to show you what we can do.
Right. And I appreciate that. And that is definitely part of the deal that I'm looking at here is just, I hear all this about we want to do single family homes, and no offense, I know it's not an easy thing to do. I know Ottumwa is, starving for quality housing. I'm totally aware of that. And if it helps workers at JBS, I'm all for that. But as far as home ownership goes, I see a lot of talk about doing these things and developers saying, well, we want to do these, but I don't see any of them being done. And I just have a reservation at this point. I know we're just setting a date, but there's time, like Zach said, maybe I can be convinced. But that's just where I'm at in this.
Let me jump in, Councilman Dobby. I think
Yes.
I've seen it. You've got some personnel things, programs that you have in JBS.
Zena Boyd, I'm the HR director for JBS. A couple things I want to point out. So to your point, council member, it's over the last 3 to 4 years, we see a lot more families that are relocating here. And one of the struggles we have to getting him here is they don't want to stay in a hotel for any amount of time. So of those 700-800 families that we've moved here over the last 4 years, we've seen well over 100 of them that have bought homes. So we're hoping with this development that it shortens that amount of time from the time that they can be able to buy those homes. But at the end of the day, those homes aren't available either, right? So we know that this is step one in order to get the families here, to be able to move to the next step of them to be able to buy it. So, we have plans hopefully to do something in the future. It's just timing has not been great on our side. We've had some other projects that we're trying to work on, but construction costs have made it difficult for us to do it. Whereas this project is something that is going to be able to get us at least a step closer to where we need to be. As far as some of the incentives that we have, we help relocate people here. We literally load up U-Hauls and move people here to help them because where they're living, they're not being able to make the amount of money that they can here. And we're seeing a lot of good reception for that. But the problem is like I said, they don't want to live in a hotel. So they won't even consider moving here. So it's a huge roadblock for us getting people to be here. We need over 200 people is what we need right now. And we have nowhere for these people to go. So this has to be a first step in order for us to make sure that we get closer. I would also like to point out a comment was made about schools earlier. We are in contact with the Ottumwa Community Schools and they're on board with the project as well. So we've been talking about logistics and where the kids will be going and what that looks like. And, you know, it's hard to predict some of those things, but it's something that we're already working on actively with the school. So.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions from council? Well, this is a first step in the process, and I think, Zach, you mentioned very well that we're not asking for any decision tonight. We're going to have a public hearing. We're going to have work with the Planning and Zoning Commission, consultation with our other taxing entities. So this is just the first step, but a good first step to get this thing moving. I'd also mention Sharon had a hand in the Professional Developers of Iowa held a conference here last week, and we had 130 professional developers from all over the state of Iowa here in Ottumwa. And an attorney who is well known throughout the state, Bob Jostens, who is the father of TIF, was here and was awarded the lifetime membership to PDI. But he's been very active in working with the TIF bill and helped grandfather that, wrote the law for Iowa. So we've had a lot of contact with his office and his people, and I think we'll continue to use not only them, but also Allers and Cooney's to be sure that we're doing what is good for the community in the long term, because I think it gets back to Matt, your point about we want these people to eventually build and buy a house and live here and retire here. We don't want them just to be here on a short-term basis. So it is a critical issue, and I certainly have had a lot of contact with Joe and his staff over the last 3 years to encourage housing from JBS because, as you said, nobody wants to live in a hotel or motel for months on end. So it is critical that we do something. Is there any other comments or questions? Okay, there's a motion on the floor to accept the resolution tonight. Are you ready to vote? Take the roll, please.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
No. No, excuse me.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming up, and Zena.
Resolution number 189, 2021, approving the design contract between the City of Ottumwa and Willett Hoffman and Associates Incorporated for the City Hall Improvements Project. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 189, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Okay, good evening, Larry. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This agreement provides for the design and coordination with the recommendations found July 6th report and discussed at the work session September 14th. The major design features include the System 6 HVAC. This system will allow for heating and cooling with the ability for zone separation and control. Additional benefits include the ability to introduce fresh air into the building as makeup air. The selected system had the ability to be installed and then expanded in phases as needed without major rework. Additional improvements include first floor remodeling and redefining the original corridor, which also allows for flow separation and acoustical separation needed for professional development and environments. The renovation will address building-wide access to meet both ADA requirements and fire protection. Additional off space will be developed for the IT office, workshop, and storage areas in the basement area. As part of the ADA requirements, all restroom areas will be updated. Key features in any type of these major restorations of an active office complex is the coordination and construction and logistics of record retention and movements. Examples are the need for HR records to remain secure. Public records recording and retrieval must remain operational for the entire project. Prior to the kickoff meeting, an advisory committee will be established to seek input from staff members for design features and maintain job functionality during construction. The design contract is a lump sum project estimated at $275,750. I do have Alan Varney here in case you have questions, but I want to kind of back up and look at one of the things that the project, as it kind of evolved, we need to develop the plans for the entire project to where if we do just small plans in subsets, we could end up boxing ourselves in a way. So the concept is do all the plans up front, and then we'll see how the funding comes. We'll be able to use different funding sources for different phases, but that does require on-the-shelf plans. And then as it develops and funding is identified, we could break that into smaller components that make sense, that are buildable, and of course prevents rework.
Questions for Larry?
Bob? Well, maybe not a question, but I just want to let you know where I'm at. I thought on the 14th, what we talked about was phasing, working on this as a phased project. And I know we've already approved monies for HVAC systems and everything else. So I understand what you just stated and what I've read, that, yeah, but we need an overall design plan. But like any project, you know, you can say, well, yeah, but we have to add this right now. We have to add this right now. But personally, in this first phase, once the plans are developed, I want to see us get a new HVAC system, heating HVAC system in City Hall. And if that means, for me, if that means, well, yeah, but later it's going to cost a couple thousand to make some adjustment, then for me, that's understood. So,
But this actually is just to do the entire design.
Yeah.
And then it'll also refine the numbers. A lot of those numbers that was developed originally for the report was really a high altitude. This will zero in, give you actual cost per sub packet. Then we can identify additional funding sources, however that works out.
Yeah.
But you still need to have the overall view of the entire building, and then you can pick your components. I think depending on funding and how they tie together, the heating system would be one of the first components if it's not part of a larger bid packet.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see how that plays out funding wise.
and I understand that, Larry, but I think what we went through last time too was if that meant that we need to go to 6 units for an overall completion of the whole building, then eventually that's the way we'll plan to do it. That's what this design plan would do.
Well, exactly, but you have to have it all put together and know what your ultimate goal is, or you can't have that set of plans.
Okay, thank you.
I think, Larry, too, just to comment, I did visit with Alan before the meeting, and one of the things I read in the packet was that there was a difference in the original cost to what is reported here, and he clarified that they did sharpen their pencil in terms of the design work, and that includes both the architectural and the mechanical. So that's a good price for those two combined, which was different in the original bid the original plans we saw a month ago.
And again, it kind of evolved over time
Yep.
on what
Yep.
we originally had sent out for.
Yep.
You know, as we took a deeper look at it, deeper dive, and started identifying possible funding sources, we wanted to develop the entire plan.
Yes.
And that's what this will allow. And then we can come back based on the entire plan. We'll have hard numbers for each of those components and where is a good place if we break them up. Then we can identify the funding source. Kind of one of the points I think Kayla had made is we have to have the whole plans if we're going after some of the historic grants. We're going to have to know what is our end goal. They might drive how we package the bids, some of the funding. I don't know if we can make that jump at this time.
Other questions, Council?
Larry, talking about potential grant sources, so does this design include what would be considered a historic structure report that would be required for some of those funding?
It does
streams?
not. That's one of the things Phil and I talked about. I talked briefly with Alan on this. What they typically do is use someone else's reports. They are very familiar with the process. They have worked with SHPO on numerous projects. They don't develop it, but they do have different firms they've worked with. The estimate could be anywhere from 10 to 20 to do that portion of it. But this would get the hard plans done for the HVAC, and we could still have a kind of a roadmap to move forward with once this is completed.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, ready to vote. Take the roll, please.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Resolution number 190, 2021, approving a subordination agreement between the City of Ottumwa, South Ottumwa Savings Bank, and Rippling Waters Property Development. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 190, 2021.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Howie. Go ahead, Zach.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Rippling Waters Property Development participated in the CDBG Upper Story Housing Program in 2018-2019, and the city holds a forgivable mortgage securing their compliance with certain program obligations. Rippling Waters is seeking an operating line of credit with South Ottumwa Savings Bank to fund some of their activities going forward, so they can invest some of their money and make better use of it. The bank's requesting that the city's forgivable loan take a second position to their new lien, and the city typically does agree to subordination agreements in these types of situations where loans are refinanced or where there's something like this, where there's a different type of lien and they would like to be in the first position. Sitting in the second position doesn't change the city's position. It doesn't change the compliance requirements for Rippling Waters or adversely create any effect for us. Also, just, I guess, as a note, the community development director, by the agreement of the organization with the city, does sit on the Rippling Waters board, but there's no profit opportunity or reason why it'd be a conflict for me to propose this. So.
Any questions for Zach? Okay, hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you. Move to item J in our agenda, and we have Dr. Bill O'Hara, who would like to address the council. If you'd step up to the microphone, please.
Mayor Lazio and council members, my name is William O'Hara. I live at 1119 North Court Street here in Ottumwa. My concern is the business that is being operated next door and the parking that it has caused a problem on the street and the health hazards that exist over there with the junk and the trash, especially when there is a young teenager, maybe not teenager, 12-year-old girl that is also lives there. And the construction of numerous tents to conduct these business in, or I don't know exactly, store materials in or something. And to the point where his neighbor constructed a $5,000 solid fence so that she wouldn't have to look at that. But it should have really been maybe 8 feet high with the tent city over there. And that is my concern.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you bringing it to the attention of the council, and we'll ask our inspections department to take a look at it, and we can certainly give some comments at the next meeting, or we have your name and address. We could give you a call and relay that information directly to you.
Thank you, Mayor Lazio and council.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Anyone else in the audience who wants to address the council? Okay, I have a couple of comments I would make just in general. Remind all of our candidates that by state law, city elections are supposed to be nonpartisan. And so remind you that you should not be identifying yourself necessarily as favoring one party or over the other, and you need to keep yourself separate from that. Also that with the campaigns, the signs that going out this year have been rather haphazardly placed, and there is a requirement by the election board and ethics office to keep all signs in private property, not in the public right of way. So again, they can't be up against the curb and out in the street or right away. So please, as you have people campaigning, and I know having run an election before, sometimes you don't do the signs yourself, but tell your people to put them in the right places and get permissions to do that. I also want to compliment the Oktoberfest Committee. I think we had a great Oktoberfest week, and they should get a big pat on the back. It was a great turnout, a great parade. And I'd like to especially compliment our street department. I was downtown for the entire parade, and within minutes after the end of the parade, our street sweeper, both of them were cleaning the streets and picked up the trash and candy wrappers and suckers and everything else that were collected along the streets. So thanks to the good work that all of them did. And lastly, again, maybe since I'm leaving office, I can take the opportunity to make a couple of comments. I think tonight's a good example. We've had comments, pros and cons on different issues, and that's the role of the council, to hear from the public and to take action here. But I do think there might be a future meeting, we might want to talk about the role of city government in private property ownership, because if property is out there, we have no business interfering with private property. And I think sometimes when we get involved, people think the city is doing it, and it's not the city, it's private developers. And so I think it's important that we understand the difference between when they come in and ask for a permit or when they want some services. But as long as land is appropriately zoned, that's why we have a planning and zoning committee, and they take a look at it, make a recommendation. You, the council, then make the final decision. And so I think we're going to have more of those kinds of things coming up. But there was some misinformation about the hotel development, and I wish people would have come and talked to us at the time we had the public hearings. We always have a public hearing as we give people opportunity to express their pros and cons on various issues and topics. But I think the hotel is a good example of something that's a little different because we do own the property. But the housing development out here north of town is something that, as long as they follow the state and local ordinances, we have no business interfering with private development. So hopefully we'll continue to educate our public and invite them to come and talk to us both at meetings, but before the meetings. As I said, they're always welcome to submit written comments to us on any topic. Phil and I respond to all the email we get. I know Chris does too. And if you have a concern, you're the eyes and ears of the community, so let us know. So with that, are there any other closing comments?
Honorable Mayor, just real quick to piggyback off of your point, here at the meeting, or as you stated earlier in the meeting, official records, emails to the city clerk, phone calls made to the city clerk or you're in my office are the proper ways and channels to get something into the record for a public hearing or otherwise. Things that are out there on social media, while they may be cathartic and they may be, something, get things off people's chest, it's not an official avenue for comment, whether somebody's for or against something. That's great for fodder and, for the public to be able to read and, react to. But that doesn't take any official action here at the council level. So for those that want to support something or oppose something that is coming before the council, make sure you come to the council meeting, you reach out to your council members or to the city clerk or my office and make those statements known, and they will be read into the record appropriately.
Very good. Good summary. If there's no further business, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Motion carries at 7:12. Thank you all and good night.